Let's start with this one. It's from a young lady in Cape Coral. Carmen, I don't understand how a deed in lieu works. Can the bank come after you if you do one? Yes and no. When you're doing a deed in lieu of foreclosure, you got to remember there's two things happening here. You've got ownership of the property. That's one aspect of the deed in lieu of foreclosure. By transferring the deed back to the bank, you've given them back ownership. That's perfectly fine. You're missing the other component though. The other component is the debt. If you're just doing one part of the transaction, giving them the ownership back, you're missing out on the debt. So then the bank's going to take that property, sell it, you're still liable on the note. If I'm doing a deed in lieu of foreclosure or some type of transfer of property back to the bank, I'm also going to talk to the bank about what's going to happen with that debt. In other words, I don't want to leave my client hanging on. Uh-oh, what are we just going to do? Wait for the bank to show up one day with a lawsuit saying, oh, by the way, we're suing you for a deficiency, meaning the difference between what we were paid when the house was sold and what you owed. Let's say at the time you did the deed, you owed them $150,000. They turn around and sold the property for $80,000. Now you're on the hook for $70,000. And you say, wait a minute, I gave you the house back. Oh yeah, but you never satisfied the note. We never talked about that. And you're still on the hook for it. Believe it or not, folks, this happens. Then I get the call. What do I do? Okay, I can't look back and say, let's go change the deal because the deal's in place already. What I have to do is look forward and say, how do we deal with this debt? So when you're talking about a deed in lieu, can the bank come after you? In that first scenario, the answer is yes. Here's another scenario. Let's say, for example, we do the deed in lieu of foreclosure and the bank agrees to waive the deficiency against you and not pursue you for a deficiency judgment, which basically a waiver of deficiency is the same thing. And we negotiate a 1099-C where you're going to get a 1099. No problem. Most people are able to wash the 1099 on their taxes. If it's the primary residence under the Bush tax cuts, you're entitled to walk away from it if you meet all the requirements. That's a tax question. I always send people out to their CPA to have this question answered about whether or not they're going to get the exclusion. Fancy terminology meaning the debt is going to be handled at the same time as the ownership. So you get the ownership, the debt. If they're both handled at the same time, then the answer is no. The bank's not going to come after you. As long as you take care of the entire transaction in one sitting, you're good. So to answer that young lady in Cape Coral's question, how does it work? Can the bank come after you? This hopefully will help that or answer that question, I guess. But I appreciate the question because it's a good question. A lot of people don't understand all the terminology behind deed in lieu of foreclosure, what it really means, and what it means to them going forward. Because that's always a concern. Are they ever going to come after me? Are they going to come after me? What can they get from me and where do I go?